Hello, I'm VX and welcome back to a storytime video. These are fun but slightly randomly timed videos I make on the main channel where I tell you fun stories about various aspects of my life in vlog format, as you can probably work out from the toy cat over here. Hi by the way. How's it going? But with that said, yeah, today I wanted to do one about travel, because a lot of people, when they find out that my goal is to go to 23 different European countries this year, I think it was, they're like, oh, so you've been traveling around Europe, what was the best country? Are you going there? What was the weirdest moment you had? What was the worst thing that ever happened? And I figured I'd collect a bunch of travel stories and just tell them all in one video, because just telling random travel stories, I think that's like frowned upon, it's a weird thing to do, but if you do want to hear some stories about my travels around Europe, this video is for you. So hopefully you do all enjoy this video. If you do all like it, like the video and let me know, because it helps out the channel and lets know you do like this sort of video and maybe want to see more of it. And I don't just say that because it's a fun series of words and I like tricking you into liking the video. It is actually like I look at it and I'm like, oh, that many likes. That clearly means that people liked it and perhaps want to see more. But anyway, let's get straight into the first of these stories. By the way, if you're surprised that I am a real person, yes, YouTubers are people. I want to believe there's like 10 people that are like, whoa, YouTubers are real people? He's got like hands and stuff like me. Anyway, with that said, let's start by talking about the first story, which is to do with the very first place I ever went to actually by myself, which was Slovenia. So yeah, this was the first ever place where I just booked a ticket because it was cheap. It was something like £27 for a return ticket from, my UK all the way to Slovenia, and I was like, sure. I hadn't even properly heard of Slovenia before. I thought I had, but I'd actually heard of Slovakia, and fun fact about those two countries, they actually, because Slovenia and Slovakia have similar flags, similar names, and they're in similar parts of the world, they actually have to meet like once a month and exchange all their official government communication, because like state departments, like really important encrypted messages and stuff like that, get sent to the wrong country and they have to exchange them. It's funny to me. But anyway, with that said, let's talk about Slovenia itself, because I fly into the place and I was just kind of confused as to how to get to the city itself. I didn't even know, basically I was that new to just this whole idea of like, how do I even get around? I've learned a lot since then, and it was exactly a year ago now actually, so it seems like a perfect time to tell this story, because on the last day I was there, in this very nice place that I was just kind of checking out by myself, I'm sat down at a restaurant like outside. It was a fancy restaurant by local standards, but by actual like UK currency standards, it was really, really cheap, and yeah, it was a relatively fancy restaurant, and I was just, drinking my soup, or I don't know what I was doing with soup, but I was just sat there like kind of doing my thing, and some dude that looks kind of homeless to me just kind of says, oh, hey, can I sit here? And I'm like, sigh, he's going to try and like beg for money, but let's do this. I'll speak to you, Mr. Homeless Man. And I'm like, sure, man. And then he just sits down and he asks, so what is your name? And then I think, oh, is this some weird scam? Because, and then I'm like, oh, I can't say that, just Andrew for now, or something like that. So yeah, I tell him my name's Andrew, and he looks at me a bit weird, like, you can't say your name, that's a weird thing not to be able to say, because I figured, again, it'd be some weird scammy thing. He's like, where are you staying? And then I made up a hotel, because I was like, no, this is some weird, because he looked kind of like a, a homeless man, maybe he wants to break in there, because he knows I didn't know what it was. So I just figured, let's give him as little information as possible, but we then just start talking. We talk about Slovenia in general. Again, he actually educates me a bit about the country, because I had no idea that Yugoslavia was a thing that existed. That was before my time at the time. There was a whole bunch of stuff I learned from this guy, and including the fact that he's like some form of scientist there. And he's like, oh, this is fine. He's like, yeah, I work there and all that sort of stuff. I later looked it up, and he's actually like a really important scientist in Slovenia that just goes around and he likes to sit at tables and speak to random strangers. I didn't know at the time. I thought he was just a weird dude that maybe wanted to mug or rob me, because then he like, he goes like, oh yeah, let's get up if you're done with this then, because, I finished and I was like, this is a really interesting conversation. We spoke about like libertarianism and a bunch of like weird concepts in a, just, to me it was weird because I didn't even know many people that spoke proper full English there, and we had an amazing back and forth and stuff. Anyway, with that said, he eventually like tries to like lead me like into a kebab shop. I assume I'm like, oh no, I'll just wait back here. So I like wait around 10 minutes, and he actually does come back like with a kebab, and it was like, oh, I guess you did want to just go to a kebab shop. And I tried to take a picture like, I want to remember this, man, because this was like the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. Like, random dude sits at table. He's actually a relatively important scientist, or I thought he was just a scientist, but he just sits down and then he's like, oh yeah, and yeah, I have to go. I don't take pictures. Goodbye. And then I realized when I got back to the hotel, I could have imagined that entire thing, because there's absolutely no proof I ever spoke to the dude. It was one of the weirdest, things that ever happened. Like, how often are people just going to, like, come sit down at a restaurant, not order anything, by the way. Again, he wanted to get a kebab later, and that's what he ate. And I was just like, this is a weird situation. And that is Slovenia and my scientist story. So, I don't know if I got the full gravitas of that across, but the second story I wanted to tell is to do with Ukraine, because I went to the Ukraine once. I'd say the Ukraine, but it is just Ukraine. when you say the Ukraine, it's actually slightly offensive because you imply it's territory. Anyway, I went to Ukraine, the country once. You've probably heard of it, especially if you've played Call of Duty 4, right? 50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town. I wanted to go to the ghost town because you can actually go on tours of that place. It's somewhat expensive, not by Western standards, but in local standards, it's actually some pretty expensive trip because you have to go like an hour and a half by van into an exclusion zone. You need to get like a official government employee in there. It was a really cool trip, but the trip itself wasn't the thing that amazed me. The thing before the trip is what amazed me because we bought a place to stay. Me and my friend that went on this thing together. So we bought a place to stay at, so we could obviously have a place to stay both nights that we're there. And when we get there on the evening, it's like a Friday evening, I think it is. So we get there on Friday evening, and we try to find the place. And where it is on my map thing is just a sex shop, and it's like, well, this is clearly not somewhere I go. I even go inside there, and I'm like, is there like a staircase to the place? And he's like, I've never heard of that. And I'm like, oh, well, this is panicking. I tried to ring the number on it. It's like, oh, it doesn't go anywhere. So it's like, oh, I think I might have just got scammed. I think I might have booked an apartment because it was relatively cheap, but again, by the standards, not amazingly cheap. It was a relatively cheap place, and I was like, oh, well, evidently, I just spent lots of money on a place that doesn't exist. But the weird thing is then I realized, wait a minute, it hasn't taken money yet. It's money when I get there. So then we actually, go to the, then we ring them up again, and they managed to pick up on the second time because we'd spent some time at McDonald's, and I guess maybe they got their thing. And just some random woman comes in a car, and she's like, I'll pick you up there. And she meets us at the spot where the place would have been. She's like, oh, that is all full, I'm afraid, friend. I take you here instead. And she took us to an amazing, 3-bed apartment. I mean, for this, again, by real standards, which is really offensive to say, it was a really, really weird place. Like, a very Soviet building, I guess I should say, but, fancy Soviet. And, so she takes us to, the actual place we're staying, and it's, this amazing 3-bed place with, a giant jacuzzi bathtub, and it's a really fancy place by the standards. And then she takes us there, and it's like, oh yes, but you must pay more. I'm like, no. So I give her 4,000 Ukrainian hryvnias or whatever it is. Again, a lot of local money, and she just goes on her way. And I decide to rub myself a bath because it has been a relatively long day. It's 3 hours to fly to Ukraine. It's an hour and a half from the airport. I left at midday, and because of the time zone shift, it's now 9 p.m. I rub myself a bath, and the water is green. I did a vlog on the second channel about this, but the water was green, and the water just stayed green the entire time I was there. And every time I try to ask anyone, they're just like, oh yes, that's fine, that's not a real issue. The waters are problematic when it goes red, but trying to find any information about this from anyone online, it doesn't exist. Water is green, it's just not a thing that anyone has information on. So I decided to just, use it anyway and just take the maybe radiation. But yeah, the time I went to Ukraine, I had a potentially radioactive bath that no one can tell me anything about. I tried to text the woman, I was like, bath water is green, send picture. Sent the picture, she stopped responding after that. It's maybe the water is just green in Ukraine. I can't tell you for sure, but I can say that was the weirdest, because, even after I tried to respond to her later on about that, when we were leaving, nothing besides, oh yes, must leave before this time. And I'm like, what about the bath? No, I feel like either this is the rarest issue that has never happened before, or it is so common that I was boring everyone when I tried to ask people about it. But yes, water is blue sometimes, or clear I guess it is, and sometimes it is green. Get over yourself, silly Westerner. That's how I pitched it anyway. Anyway, the final story I wanted to tell is about a time that in my head I nearly died. I don't know how realistically I did almost die. But when I went to Norway earlier this year, February, it was January or February, I went there because I wanted to go skiing for a bit, and also because there was a really cool, because there was a relatively cheap flight to Bergen, and there's a Bergen to Oslo railroad that's it goes through mountains, and it's super beautiful. Fun fact, if you want to do that sometime, pretty good, because in Norway it's you pay 90 crowns or something, and you get first class where you get an amazing. See, I know that's so cheap by Western standards. Not Western standards. I'm stuck in Ukraine, but it's super cheap compared to any first class upgrade on anything else in the world ever, and you get free hot drinks, and I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway, so yeah, I when I was in Oslo, I decided to go to the top of this mountain because Oslo is built on the I guess a bay around a mountain. It's confusing to say, but there is a mountain, a really big one, right next to Oslo, and you can actually take a train up there. One of their metro services, it's not underground, it's overground, it just goes up the mountain, it's actually really cool. Again, it's another really beautiful view. Oslo, Norway is a pretty beautiful country, who'd have figured? But Yeah, basically, so I decided to go up there because there is this really cool service where you can, I guess it would be called a sledge or a bobsled. No, it's not a bobsled. It's the thing where you sit on a box. It's not. It's sort of a box, yeah, and you have your feet on both sides. I don't know what that's called. If you do know, then let me know because I really should know. But anyway, so there's a service where you can take this little box thing and like ride it down like this preset path, and then it takes you right into a metro station again. So think of the metro as being like a C shape. You can ride like down that and kind of connect it up and make it a D, which means that you can basically, instead of having their own lifts or stuff, you can go down like 2 kilometers or 2 miles, I forget which one it is, off just downhill slope, then get on a train, get back to the top, go down again, which is a really, really cool system because you use the public transport, which is super, super cheap and effective there, and I had a pass anyway, and you get to just keep going around it. So yeah, the first, I get there and the guy's like, it's not great weather conditions today, and that was true. It was amazingly foggy, but like not properly cold foggy, so there was a lot of like slush everywhere, and he's like, it's going to be a bit slushy, I'll even give you a discount. So it was something like £7, which, bear in mind, in Norway, you can barely get a sandwich for that much because of the prices. But yeah, for that price, they're like, yep, we give you the helmet, we give you this, you sign a release form. Probably should have given me away at that release form, but you sign all this sort of stuff, and then you go. So I take my helmet, I take my whatever else, and I decide to take this down to the slope, but I can't find the slope, right? So again, it's like a 2-kilometer slope. There's a lot of ones nearby that I looked up on the map, but the one that I meant to be going down should be obvious, but I can't find it because of the fog. So clearly, like, he's just like, take a right, take a left, or something like that. I clearly haven't done this because I've been walking for like 10 minutes maybe, and I don't see anyone, I don't see anything, no cars, no nothing, and I'm like, I might be lost. Should I turn back? Oh, no, adventure, let's keep going. So I keep walking till eventually I run into, like, I guess it's like a school teacher, because he's got like 20 kids nearby him. I mean, maybe it's something else. But anyway, just some random Norwegian dude who has 20 children around him. And I'm like, you know what, this is going to be strange, but I'm just going to have to say, oh, hey, where's the slope down? And he's like, you know, he did give me some actually pretty good advice. Again, amazing thing about Norwegians is they're all super polite and they're all nice about the whole thing. And he's just like, yep, go that way. And I'm like, okay, then I'll go over there. So I go there, and there's actually like a giant, like, I guess like a thing across it with like not a danger sign, but like, it clearly you're not meant to go there. But I'm like, this is it though. So I go down the slope. Again, I don't think it's the correct slope because clearly it's locked off, but I'm just like, you know, how much worse could an extra hard or extra long slope be? Whatever, I'll walk the extra bit because I've got Google Maps on my phone. So I decided to go down this thing, and it's just really boring at first. Like, again, because a lot of the ice is melted, I'm just like, I'm pushing myself along. It's like, ugh. Do I have to do this for 2 miles? This is going to be a drag. But then after, like, the first couple of turns down this thing, I go insanely fast. Like, I guess I hit the real speed thing, and I'm just like, oh, I've lost control. I don't even know how this works. Like, is it right foot to go right or right foot to go left? I can't work this out because it's not having enough of an impact, so I'm just like, and so I'm going down this, like, thing at crazy, crazy speeds. The gap between, so it's on like an elevated path to some extent. It starts as like this much of a gap between this between the path and the kind of like the rest of the thing, but the gap gets massive until it's like meters, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna get some serious damage if I pull this thing because there's like trees down there, and I'm like, oh geez, I'm just gonna slow down and do this. I can't slow down with both feet. I'm just like, it's not happening. So okay, this is gonna be great fun. I just decide to keep going and like have fun with it. But then what happens is, as I'm going at this crazy, crazy speed that I feel like I can't control, it's probably actually pretty slow by real standards, but when you're close to the ground, you feel speed, and you're like, oh, so out of control. But yeah, as I'm going down this thing, and I'm kind of lost, going through like the wilderness at some extent, I go into like a giant patch of gravel. So bear in mind, I didn't know this about like physics and stuff, but if you are going crazy fast and you hit like gravel or what's it called? Grit, I think it is. I hit something like that, and what just happened is it just made me spin. So I do a 180, like 180, and then I spin again. So I'm like doing a full 360, and I'm back in the right thing. And then I do one more spin, again, in a really short space of time, so I actually see my full surroundings. And then I'm going backwards down this thing. I can't work out how to slow it down or like turn around or anything. So I'm going backwards down this slope where if I fall off, I know I'm going to get like seriously hurt. And it's just like, oh geez, oh my god. And then what eventually happens is I like crash into like an ice river. Or I guess it was a stream more than a river, because if it was a river I'd be fully drenched. But it got me like everywhere, but I was like, I'm safe, I'm fine, and that was good. So yeah, that was a long kind of story to tell you that I went down a hill once, I went really fast, I turned around, almost died in my opinion. I mean, realistically I'd just been a bit injured, but still, I don't want to break an arm in Norway or anything, and had a great time, and would totally recommend it if any of you are ever in Oslo. So yeah, hopefully you did all enjoy today's little travel stories thing. lots of weird stuff happened, whether it was, again, some actually relatively well-known scientist in Ljubljana, whether it was the green water in Ukraine, or whether it was going down a hill and, in my head, almost dying in Oslo. Again, I'm sure that I would have probably, like, again, 20 miles per hour backwards into a tree. I feel like that's not a good injury to have, right? Correct me if you think I'm wrong. Oh, also, because I didn't have gloves, because, long story on that one, because they're really expensive to buy. I was also, like, super, super cold and couldn't even touch the ground or anything like that. But fun story. But, yeah, I hope you do enjoy today's travel vlog thing. Not travel vlog. Vlog thing about travel. If you did all enjoy it, like the video and let me know. Share if you really liked it. And subscribe if you're new around here. I make videos like this one. Well, not like this one at all. Every single day on my channel. And if you subscribe, you'll see them daily on your homepage. I don't know what you've been seeing as background gameplay, but it's probably something fun, right? And I guess I'll see you all in the next video.